And now, the Sleephawk Worldwide Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brandon Staten and Tyler Hansbrough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sleephawk Worldwide Podcast. This is Sleep Dog live, legitimately, with the Big Hulk.
What's up, everybody? It's the Big Hulk. Excited to get this going. We are remote. This is our first time using this platform, mixing it up a little bit. We're excited to have a great podcast today. A lot has happened, a lot of drama, and we're here for it, Sleep.
Absolutely. Coming fresh off the Masters. That's why we're coming to you Monday, because it would have been dicey trying to stay up. I mean, it's prime nap time. It would have been dicey trying to stay up, till 7 or 8 and then trying to get a full-blooded podcast in. So we just waited until Monday. We've got NBA playoffs, the play-in tournament. We're going to explain how that works. Caleb Love's going to Michigan. I'm going to Lil Wayne 2 weeks. Might want to chat about that a little bit. Got all kinds of stuff going on. And college basketball, about as interesting as it gets, is portal news. So we'll try to stretch that one about as thin as we can make it. But like we talk about a lot, the NBA is coming up, and that's going to be there's going to be a lot of fun storylines. Timberwolves is one we're going to get into here in a little bit. But let's start with the Masters, man. It's what everybody's talking about. Liv versus the United States of A. And Jon Rahm, saves the day, comes out, tracks down Brooks Koepka, wins by like 4, just duffs one off the tee, just shanks one in the woods on 18, just straight sleep dog style. Comes back and pars that, I think, which absolutely not sleep dog style. But what'd you think of the Masters, Big Hawk? How much of it did you watch? What were your emotions?
I watched about as much as I've watched the Masters ever. I watched a good chunk of it. I thought it was great. I thought the weather added a little extra drama to it.
Mm-hmm.
But Jon Rahm is just incredible, and he is basically a machine. I actually saw him win the U.S. Open in person at Torrey Pines a few years ago, and it was incredible. When he gets locked in, I mean, he is just on a mission, and he came out on Sunday ready to go. And also, I was a little surprised because going into it, I thought that Brooks Koepka was too much of an experienced player to kind of have that meltdown he had. I know he didn't really start off the way he wanted and kind of put himself in a hole, and Rahm just kept chipping away. And then Rahm just got a rhythm and he got his confidence, and he was he was all out. And the other thing that I did really like about the Masters, it didn't get a lot of attention, but the round that Phil Mickelson had on the final day was incredible. For his age, one of the best rounds he's ever had at the Masters, going super low, put himself in contention. And I was actually pulling for a shit job from Brooks Koepka and also Jon Rahm because I wanted to see Phil win it. Obviously, Phil went to the Masters dinner with all the winners. I think it was Wednesday night before the Masters officially kicked off. Didn't really say much. Has been the face of criticism, on and off the course. Is that what they say in golf? But
they do now.
He's caught a lot of criticism, not only from his players, but also from the media, and they've kind of shunned him. We didn't hear a lot about that. And obviously, Tiger, my other question in the Masters, what in the heck is Tiger doing? I mean, good God. And there's nobody that embellishes injuries the way that Tiger does. I thought, honestly, I was watching it because I wanted to see if Tiger was going to crawl to the greens after he hit a shot, because there's nobody. I mean, there's nobody that just starts limping, and just out of nowhere, you see Tiger just start limping. And then all of a sudden the crowd just gets behind him and he just hits a miracle shot, and he's like just grimacing, and then he's just limping to his next shot. And I thought it might be the first time that he actually got on his knees and crawled to his ball. But besides that, I enjoyed the Masters. Regardless, it is a very calming sport to watch, and you can never go wrong with Jim.
You know what I noticed over the weekend? It's a very white sport to watch too. I was at one point, I look back and look in the crowd, and it's all white people. I thought it was good. I like the Masters. Um, I'm like everybody else. Is like Tiger is why I watch, right? And I'm right there with you, dude. I'm like, bro, ain't nobody hurt that bad playing golf. Period. Like you could take a John Rahm just scud off the deck to the shin. Maybe you start limping like that then. But like, dude, he's just out there like hitting these balls. And I mean, I'm sure he's hurting. I'm sure he's obviously not 100% and all this sort of stuff. It is somewhat kind of miraculous that he's out there, but I think he's just psyched himself into some of this stuff. And yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, come on, man, it's a little bit of a shtick there. And um, you always, I mean, I wonder, you asked this the last pod, are there any fans anywhere that are more delusional than Tiger Woods fans? And I mean, apart from like a couple college basketball fans we know, probably not.
Cowboys are up there.
Cowboys are up there. State fans are definitely up there. I know a few Carolina football fans in particular that are on the board. But yeah, it's like you watch him and I don't know. It's hard it's a bummer because man, that like there's some great players. John Rahm, great player. Some of these guys that have won a bunch of tournaments, Rory, Phil, all these guys are great players, but they're not generational players, or at least not yet. And it certainly doesn't look like it. Like Tiger Woods is right up there with like LeBron, Tom Brady, Jordan, right? You can name these guys on one hand, essentially, that are just so much better than everybody else. And you just know that as a fan, you just want to see that one more time, dude. You get addicted to that shit and you ain't going to see it anymore, period. Like Tiger Woods never going to win again. He's done, and we basically had to like acknowledge that in this tournament. Now, John Rahm just smokes the ball, dude. I mean, it's amazing how hard and far he hits the ball and how good he is. And there's a lot of other guys. I always, my favorite storyline out of the whole thing was, I used to like Brooks Koepka. Then I got on the point where I think I'm like a lot of people where he just seems like a dick and I don't really like him that much. It's not even the live thing. It's just like, he seems like, he's so flippant about golf is just easy for me. Yeah, bullshit, right? So I thought it was funny when they were behind. Who the hell was it that they were behind that was playing slow, and everybody got pissed about it?
I think it was Cantley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I saw on Twitter where Brooks Koepka said that John Rahm had taken a piss 7 times and they were still standing there waiting to hit the ball. And I'm thinking, man, these are going to be some really good comments just eviscerating Brooks Koepka. And instead, it was everybody saying, yeah, dude, he's right. So that's how much the world hates a slow golfer. And apparently, man, everybody was pissed about that. And in my opinion, he reminded me of old God, I wish I could remember that guy's name. Me and old Big Hawk went up to we got paired with a rando one time. Duncan. Old Duncan.
Duncan. Good God.
Dude, you thought every shot he was taking was on the 72nd hole of Augusta National. And I mean, he was hitting more trees than Bill Walton before a damn Battle for Atlantis game. That's a lot of trees. Anyway, yeah, Masters was cool. I just think that they lay it on. You know what? Here's my hot take. I'm over Jim Nance's shtick, dude. It's like too thick, man. Like you get on hello friends, and all this shit is like so. Like the comment, I was like kind of joking about it just being like all white people, and I mean, whatever, it is what it is. It's Augusta, Georgia, and a golf, right? But it's just like every single part of it was like so dramatic, dude. Like, and here's Rahm over the 5th. It's in. I'm like, dude, all right, dude. It's like I saw it happen, man. Like, relax. So I don't know. It's just it's kind of why I fall asleep during it all the time. Masters was great, but like it's never gonna be the same as Tiger because Tiger brings like genuine drama. Like Tiger makes you want to watch. These guys sort of force the drama into the story by grand, whatever it's called, making things seem bigger than they really are. It was a normal ass tournament.
Yeah. And the one thing that, it's some of these PGA Tour golfers who just take like this stand for humanitarianism, and they just go totally against the live golfers. Rory in particular didn't even make the cut. Phil Mickelson kept his mouth shut and went out there and backed it up. Rory's been talking smack for ever since this thing started, and I was kind of seeing how he was going to perform, knowing that these live guys are going to be here, and he just no-showed it. And Rory's been a little bit of a disappointment as a golfer. The guy couldn't putt through a hula hoop, but I expected a better showing from him.
Yeah, old Rory is one of those guys that, like, and that's the other part about golf, man, is like they get so they get on these guys, right? And they're golf itself is so desperate for the next Tiger Woods. Like, he ain't out there. And I don't see anybody that is remotely as captivating, right? Like, you got to not just be good. You got to not just be better than everybody else. You got to be way better than everybody else. And there's not a guy there. And so, like, Rory's one of those guys. Like, everybody thought Rory won a few and everybody thinks he's going to be the next guy. Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. Like, these guys are great golfers. They're really good. But, like, I mean, how old is Rory now? He's got to be in his 30s. He ain't going to win fucking 10 majors. Don't look like he might win 10 more tournaments the way he plays. You're right, man. I think I putt better than him from 5 feet in on decidedly flatter greens. But nonetheless, I mean, shit, dude. Definitely got the same wardrobe when I go out there. So, yeah, I mean, golf is just one of those things. Like, you're beholden. Like, I had that kid out there today or all weekend, an amateur. And I mean, the kid was like, yeah, he was, you said he played slow. He just looked like, a nerd, but, he was in the mix, right? One of the, and you're just sort of like, dude, he ain't gonna be Tiger. So don't talk to me about it. I mean, cool, whatever, win. I don't care. If the guy had won, if an amateur had won the Masters, I don't know that it would have said more to me about how good that kid is, who he's like still in college. He's like 21, or just how mundane golf is without Tiger Woods. I mean,
golf needs another John Daly. That's what they need. They need somebody. Well. They need somebody out there ripping six. It goes against the grain. Just goes out there and blacks out for the back nine and just lights the field up. And then sitting at Hooters after it around. That's what golf is missing. There's too many, stiffs.
There's too much pageantry. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's.
Tickets that thing like $2,500 a piece. Ain't no way, dude. Forget that shit.
Ain't no way.
No way. Anyway, yeah. So it was interesting storyline. Like, Rahm's the guy to watch right now. I think Rahm's the best golfer in the world. Clearly, or at least he played like it. Koepka's pretty damn good. And some of those other guys. That's always the other thing that's so weird to me about golf. It's like all this onus on winning majors. And it makes those guys that win multiple so great, because golf is one of them things, man, where it's like, my body doesn't know whether it's the Masters or whether it's the, Kleenex Invitational Pro-Am. It's just hopefully it's clicking for me during the Masters. I mean, golf is not one of those places where the best guy always wins. So, or best guy probably hardly ever wins. But anyway, Jon Rahm, I think, was the best guy. So sometimes they do win. But Caleb Love, let's go there next, man. So Caleb made an announcement to go to Michigan. I don't think anybody I don't know where people thought he was going to go. I saw a whisper about Indiana because they had recruited him before. I don't know if people thought Michigan. I didn't know. I mean, once he said he was leaving, I'm just kind of like, dude, I hope you find a place where get to do what you want. But we might play Michigan in Battle for Atlantis, I think. So that'll be interesting. You got Mondo out there with drop a little cryptic tweet yesterday. Says, stay tuned. Everybody's like, well, for what? Is this Outer Banks season 4 drop date? Or, Michael coming back with that senior year? Let us know what you think you got going on here. So anyway, man, I mean, we beat the transfer portal into the ground, but I think Caleb going to Michigan is kind of interesting storyline. I mean, they just lost their best player to the portal, and they bring one in who has the potential to be great.
Yeah, I didn't really see the Michigan. I didn't really see him going to Michigan. I'm not sure how that happened. I don't know. Obviously he puts his name in the portal and then they reach out and recruit him. But besides that, I was never really. It was never really on my radar that he would end up at Michigan, especially since we played Michigan and he almost fought half the team. But I, I would say the one appealing thing is Juwan Howard. I mean, he comes from the Miami Heat front office. He's been around Pat Riley. He has some NBA connections, so maybe that was where his focus was. But also for me, I thought Arkansas was going to be a pretty good fit. Ricky Council is a similar player, not a great jump shot shooter, extremely athletic, can get to the bucket, does a lot of different things. And Mossberg is Eric Mossberger. I'm saying his last name wrong, but he's a hell of a coach, and he does a good job coaching players, similar to Caleb. So I thought from actually a basketball perspective, I thought Arkansas was a good fit. But I didn't really see him going to Michigan. But it'll be interesting, especially since there's a few players from Michigan that are leaving. Hunter Dickinson is actually in the portal currently. There's still some seeing where he's going to go. And there's been some rumblings. I think Armando's actually trying to recruit him, but I'll be curious to see where he goes. They obviously need some more players at Michigan. That's what they do. They need some more players. I'm not sure they're a contender, but it'll be interesting to see how that works and how they actually recruited them. But also the other one, Sleep, is my guy Dontrez Styles, committed to Georgetown. I thought that was a surefire. I had some pretty credible sources telling me he was going to go to State, but that was a big pickup for Ed Cooley at Georgetown, who came over from Providence and trying to rebuild that program. I think Dontrez is going to be a good addition. They need good players. He's going to play right away. That's what I think, and I'll be interested. I'm going to follow him because I want to see how he does. He's athletic. He has size. He can do different things.
Yeah, look, basketball, the NCAA as we've known it for a long time is always going to be different. You're going to see a lot more of the same come tournament time every year. That does not mean that Blue Bloods aren't going to win and that you're not going to see chalk in the Final Four sometimes. But what it does mean is you're going to see like a lot of 8-loss teams come tournament time, a lot of 10, 11, 12-loss teams to get in there. So, as far as where Caleb was going to go, ask me where else he could have gone that I would have been surprised, and I guess it would have pretty much been everybody. So, again, like we said before, and we'll say, kind of forever. I hope the best for him. Hope the best for Styles. We're going to get into Walker Kessler a little bit later, man. He obviously went somewhere else. And like at the end of the day, man, you got to root for these kids to go somewhere and it be the right decision for them. And if you're against that, then there's something wrong with you as a fan, as a Carolina fan, as whatever. Like if this kid says, hey, I want to go somewhere and have a better opportunity, and he goes somewhere, gets a better opportunity and takes advantage of it, who are we to sit here and kind of judge them? So yeah, I hope hope Caleb doesn't torch us if we play him, but if he goes out and has a great year and gets his career back on track to potentially go to the NBA, man, good for him, dude. And Styles, look, man, I think every kid goes to a program and wants to play no matter where you go. Some kids might have an accurate interpretation of how much they'll play or what role they'll play, and some might not. And we've talked a lot about like sticking it out and this, that, and the other, and I definitely believe in that. I believe there's value in that in life, but basketball and college basketball has a shelf life. It is a perishable good. So like the more I think about it, is like, yeah, I mean, the old man in me wants to see a kid stay, learn the hard way, and blah blah blah. But dude, the clock's ticking, and a lot is changing. And so if these kids feel like, hey, they're gonna go, one of the things I said, Big Hog, and I'll close it back on is I hope if they go and look for a better situation, I hope they find it. And I'd much rather see Caleb go and succeed, and Styles go and succeed, and all these other kids, Tyler Nickel, and succeed. Then I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and hope Caleb goes and has a terrible year and be like, ha ha, told you. Like, what difference does it make in my life? I mean, I want these kids to come and, and benefit. So
yeah, Sleep, I'm with you. And I think we talked about our, last episode or a few episodes ago about Tyler Nickel going to Virginia Tech. So we'll definitely play him and we'll see him. It's going to be interesting to see what he does for Virginia Tech. Obviously, he's a Virginia guy. He's from Virginia. So we'll see what he does. They need some outside shooting. He's a great scorer. It's going to be interesting to see what consistent playing time does for his confidence. He could be a guy that, man, we wish we would have played him more. Yeah, I'm all for these guys. Sometimes you just need a new, fresh start, a new perspective. And I think sometimes when you put so much pressure on yourself and, sometimes it's good to get away from that. And also, you've got to have conversations with the coaching staff. If your goals and what you want to accomplish in college basketball don't align with what they have in mind for you, and there's a disagreement, who's to say that you can't go to another school and accomplish what you want and be a bigger piece of the picture? So I respect that. And also I understand if you're not getting playing time and you want to go play, going to a place that's going to play you, I understand that. I love basketball. I'd love to play basketball. And so I can get with that. But we wish them nothing but the best. I think they're actually there's another side of this. They're actually humans and they're good people too. Mm-hmm. So I wish them all the best.
Great segue into a topic you brought up before we came on, Walker Kessler right now. Okay. So not only did Walker Kessler decide to leave, and that was under Coach Williams, he goes to Auburn, and they were like number one in the country for a good portion of the season. I think they went to the Final Four maybe or something like that. They got deep. No, they didn't go to the Final Four, but they got deep in the at least Sweet 16, 8, something like that. God, now that you think of it, could you imagine if he had stayed? Trending on Twitter right now because and this was Big Hawk's call, not mine. No, damn. They just refreshed it on me. Had him up here. Dude, his stats this year are insane.
Yeah.
He his true shooting, I just lost it while I was going. But anyway, here it is. Sorry. 9.2 points a game. No big deal, right? 8.4 rebounds a game. That's like not a big deal. Given you got to remember his minutes per game I don't have, but he didn't get a ton of them. It's not like he's playing 30 minutes a game. So going out there and flirting double-double on any given night. 2.3 blocks, third in the NBA. And you called all this stuff, so I'm like basically stealing it from you. 72% field goal percentage. His true shooting percentage was the other part that was nuts. It's like 98%. I mean, in his like, you can spin stats however you want.
Yeah.
But his per minute thing, per 36 or whatever you want to look at, is staggering. And here's a guy 2 years ago that was in the same situation as some of these guys, not playing, right? So, dude, and this is the part that gets me is because we're going to talk about the Timberwolves and how we think Rudy Gobert is a bitch. The T-Wolves traded Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Leandro Balmero, I don't even know who that is, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. I mean, bro, they lost that trade badly.
Oh, yeah.
So, just kind of fascinating how, we're sitting in the here and now, or especially like last 6 months, everybody's crying and talking shit about people. And then next thing you know, this dude's going to be a defensive player of the year. And not this year, but I'm saying that's his got to be his trajectory.
Well,
I mean, Walker Kessler's on pace to be an all-star.
He's a contender for sure. And he's also in consideration. He had 2.3 blocks per game. That's top 5 in the NBA. That's more than Rudy Gobert, which Rudy Gobert is considered one of the best defenders in the league. As far as drop coverage goes with a ball screen, that's where the big drops to give the guard room to get through the screen. And also it gives him a better position to protect the rim and contest the shot. Because of his length, he can sit back on pick and rolls and contest guys. And also he cleans up a lot of things at the rim. But looking at that trade, it definitely looks like the Jazz got the best deal they possibly could. Gobert's been a little bit of controversy. He didn't get along with Donovan Mitchell. Remember that the chemistry was way off with those two. And so when you're talking about, and we said this way back when Garrison Brooks was playing over Kessler a lot. And when Garrison got hurt, we got to see Kessler have some consistent minutes, and we started winning. And that was a struggling team. A lot of people were fighting for Walker Kessler to play. And I said that I think Walker Kessler has the ability to be the best player, the most talented player that Coach Williams has ever coached. Now, Coach Williams also coached Paul Pierce. People forget that. And he's had a lot of talented bigs. You can go down the list. But I don't think that anyone's had the size or the hands or the agility that Walker does. Now, Walker's not like a cornerback, but for his size and how big he is, he can move. Like, he's a good runner. He has good footwork. He has soft hands around the rim. And he's a pretty good free throw shooter. And he's got the ability to, expand his shot, work on his game to be potentially one of the best up and coming players in the NBA. So we're definitely excited for him. Also, when you talk about the Jazz this year, at one point they were taking the league by surprise. They got off to a really hot start, and they were actually the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Obviously, they came back to reality, but they had a pretty good year for what they were expecting.
Dude, Walker Kessler had 99 more blocks and 1.3 blocks per game more than any other rookie. They talk a lot about his IQ. So it's like athleticism is, it's a hard thing to quantify when you're that size, right? Like, what does athleticism equal? I mean, you tell me that Jokic is a freaking freak athlete, but he just doesn't jump off the page at you, right? Like, but Kessler, to be so fluid, to have such great footwork, great hands, and then mix it with an intelligence that is superior to probably a lot of veterans in the league. He's different, man. We've had a lot of kind of guys that fit his physical profile that, didn't last necessarily a super long time, or maybe they did, but they didn't make a huge impact. And then, I mean, he makes me think of a guy like Dirk, because he can get that mid-range and really he can shoot from the perimeter, and he's only going to mature. And he's a sneaky good player, prospect for the long term, because that size, like, you can't guard it outside. And you talk about some of these guys stretching the floor and that sort of stuff. But yeah, he's a fascinating player. He'll get some chances as things progress to make an impact on better teams. And and Rudy, I don't think he's gonna get many more chances this year, because the T-Wolves, dude, they imploded. Somehow they still won that game. Was it yesterday? They're like fighting each other. And they play the Lakers tomorrow night in the play-in, 7-8 play-in. No.
It'd be 7-8. It's 7-8.
They are. But they're playing the Lakers, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
they'll play for that last playoff spot.
Yeah.
Or the second to last, because then the loser will play the winner of the 9.
So that was the one thing I want to just clarify for our listeners. Then we'll get back into the T-Wolves. How does the play-in work? because I think it's a really fascinating thing.
I actually like the play-in. So
I
there's
love it.
there's 8 spots for the playoffs, and the last 2 spots will be up for fight for the 4 teams. I think it would be it would be 7.
Why was 6 afraid of 7?
It would be 7.
7
Why?
and 9. And the 10th team doesn't really fit the joke, but yeah, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are your play-in teams.
Yeah, and so the 7 and 8, they play a game, and the winner of that takes the 7th spot in the playoffs. And the loser will play the winner of the 9th and 10th seed team, and the winner of that game between the loser of the 7 and 8 and the winner of the 9 and 10 will battle it out for the 8th spot in the playoffs. And I like it, but also the Lakers are playing Minnesota. And so the Lakers have a chance, if they win, to make the playoffs, which would be spectacular given what they've been through this year. And it seems like they're catching their stride. But also, you got to talk about Minnesota. Anthony Edwards, who is a young and up-and-coming player, and the front office is desperately trying to make a run into the playoffs. You know, they got Karl Anthony Towns, who he's been an extraordinary player, and everyone considers him one of the most talented players in the NBA, but he hasn't really had these postseason runs. He hasn't been dominant in the postseason. And then they surround him with a player like Anthony Edwards. And then they bring in the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. What do they need to do to actually be successful in the postseason in the NBA? And it's just like everything that you can consider. I don't know what they need to do, but they have talent. Why can't they win is a big question mark. And then you talk about their chemistry issues. Gobert gets into it with Kyle Anderson and punches him in a timeout. Now Gobert is suspended for the play-in game against the Lakers tomorrow night in LA. And then you have one of your players, Jaden McDaniels, punches the wall going into the tunnel at halftime and breaks his hand. So what a disaster. And this is all the last game of the regular season. This all just an absolute circus. But they did win the game. But they lost a lot. And Sleep,
and
let me tell you.
New Orleans.
New Orleans is good. You know, they're the 9th seed, so they're going to have to battle it out for that last spot too. But also, I can tell you from experience, I've hit a wall before. It was in 5th grade, broke my hand. And my dad, luckily, he was an orthopedic surgeon. I went and showed my dad, and he said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "Dad, I hit a wall." He said, "You broke your hand." No x-ray, no nothing. And so we went and got an x-ray. And sure enough, he said, "Yep, broke your hand." And he said, "Tyler, I see this about once a week." He said, "This is called a boxer's fracture." He was like, "This is very common, but you just feel silly. And don't ever hit a wall again." And so every time I see someone hit a wall, I'm like, I bet he broke his hand. And as soon as I saw him come out after halftime and have ice on his hand and he couldn't play, I was like, he broke his hand. And luckily I haven't hit a wall since 5th grade, but that was I couldn't get enough. I thought that was hilarious.
Well, I hit a wall about 2:00 every afternoon. Jaden McDaniels is a great player. He's a great young player, and him and Anthony Edwards, if you ask me, are the future of the franchise. So like McDaniels, I know an average fan might not have heard a lot about him, but he's had a really breakout year this year. He was in the class with like James Wiseman and some of those guys. I mean, he's a really talented kid. And you know, he's kind of long, good defender, can shoot the ball a little bit, athletic, and like, yeah, that's a big loss for them. And now Gobert is suspended for the Lakers game. They sent him home. Like that happened at halftime, and they said, "Go the fuck home." I mean, they sent your best player, theoretically. You just literally sent him home in one of the most important games of the season. So that just shows how egregious it was. You know, Anthony Edwards is a top, like statistically this season, he was a top 10 player in the league. I mean, fantasy stat thing.
I'm a big believer in Anthony
He
Edwards.
is a stud. I mean, he is also on my fantasy team, and I think he's going to be awesome. You got to put a team around him. You can't waste this. Gobert, they got to get him out of here. He's gone. You know, I don't care if you're Minnesota. This is the hard part. Is we just talked about that trade they just got fleeced on I mean, all those first-round picks, Kessler was a first-round pick too, and turns out he's going to be a good one. And you gave up all that, and like a lot of good role players on a team that last year, like who'd they lose to? I think they lost to Memphis in the playoffs, or maybe it was Golden State. But like you lost to a good team last year, and you had all the core pieces, and they felt like, I guess, Gobert was the thing that was getting in the way. But here's the thing: like now you got to go up against AD and LeBron, and you don't have your best defender, and you also don't have one of your best players. So, it's just it blows my mind that an NBA team would wind up in a situation like this. Pablo says we got a live question coming in, by the way. Keep going.
Yeah, so here's my question, and then we'll answer that live question. What do you think of Karl Anthony Towns? Honest opinion.
I like Karl Anthony Towns. I didn't know that I liked him as much until I actually heard him talk. And he seems like just a guy that is he's real cerebral, man. He kind of has things in perspective really well. I think I like him as a person. As a player, he's like, I still think he's extremely underrated in terms of how talented he is as a player. And I'll tell you that I didn't think I liked him until I sort of started paying a little more attention to him. I think he's an awesome player, and I think he's a really good dude too.
So here's my argument, and I'll ask you: can you win with him as your number one go-to player on the team? I say no.
I say no as well, and that's not. It's a knock. Yeah. Anytime you say a guy you can't win as a number one, that is a knock. I don't mean it as such, though. I do think that you can win with him and Edwards. I think Edwards is one of the few guys in this league, one of the 10 or 15 guys I think that is like a championship pedigree player.
So what would you add? What would you add to make them win? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I think it's a point guard. I think it's a high quality point guard that can come in, bring some leadership. Somebody along the lines, and CP3 is not going there, but somebody Chris Paul-ish, I think would be a huge addition for Minnesota.
Well, here's one of the things that's interesting to me, and I'd have to agree on that. You need some space on the floor, and I don't watch a ton of Timberwolves games, but what I do watch is a ton of Jonathan Kuminga, and he's a super athlete, right? He's a better shooter than people give him credit for, but foremost, he's a slasher, man. And when the floor is spaced out, all he's got to do is find the lane. And if you watched the game yesterday, dude, they threw him a lob at one point. That ain't even the one that's been all over SportsCenter. They threw him a lob, and it was just like, get it somewhere near the baseline. And he came down and threw it down. Anthony Edwards is that kind of athlete too. Oh, yeah. So Anthony Edwards is a much purer shooter, I think, especially at this stage, not quite as like tall and lanky. But, the one thing I always wonder about is you got Gobert and you got Towns down low. Now, Towns has been hurt. He missed like more than half the season from an injury. I think he had an Achilles or something from last year. So, like, you have to wonder with those guys down low, like just how effective can Edwards be when he's got to rely on a jump shot. Now, he can shoot well. He shoots 45% for the year, 46% for the year, and he can shoot from the perimeter. But make no mistake, man, he is an attack the rim guy. And so, yeah, I think if you could dump, I think Towns is great because he does space the floor as a big, but Gobert doesn't, right? Yeah. So I feel like that's why, and everybody was scratching their head when they made that trade. So I think that's a great ad. Like Kyle Anderson is one of these guys. He's like nobody goes to pays to see Kyle Anderson play. Slow-mo, one of the best. One of the best nicknames.
I don't like that addition. I really don't. And that's not a knock to him, but he came from that Spurs system where you could kind of add a guy in and he would be productive, but is that player productive at other places? I know he had a run at Memphis, didn't really pan out. He's just one of those guys that just found a spot on teams and somehow plays. And I'm always scratching my head. Why do they have him in? But you know what? Maybe if I was his teammate and coaching, I would understand why they make that decision. But Sleep, I'll just say it real quick. I think actually, here's my hot take. Phoenix comes out of the West. I think KD, addition to the Suns, Devin Booker, CP3, I think they stay healthy, and I think they come out of the West to meet the Bucks. That's who I'm going with. And that's, we'll have to go back to our NBA preseason picks, but right now, that's what I'm rolling with.
Bucks are hard to go against. I definitely got Suns Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Warriors are all the way back healthy again. They're about to have Andrew Wiggins back. They seem to be playing like really well right now. Definitely got the Warriors coming out of the West just because, I mean, I'm trying to watch Kuminga play as long as I can, but also I just watch him a lot. And I think, dude, Phoenix is going to be good too, right? I mean, I ain't taking nothing away from them. That's going to be the series I want to see. I don't actually even know if no.
So
okay,
Denver's
no,
the one seed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know if they can play in the final. They almost played each other in the first round. They're the two best teams, I'll say, is what I mean. I haven't looked at the whole bracket yet. They won't really get started in earnest until next weekend. So that was probably a stupid take. But nonetheless, I think those two teams are going to be around until they face each other. And then what a hell of a storyline. KD come back to Phoenix. Like, imagine – and I just love how KD's one of those players where I've been like, I've always liked him. I've never really disliked him. I love him and the way he handles all these. It's like, dude, I'm Kevin fucking Durant, dude. I don't really care what you got to say, dude. I'm like one of the greatest shooters who ever lived. But it will be an interesting story, and he will have a lot more of them to answer to if they come up against Golden State. And Golden State's like in the sunset of their dynasty, and they wind up getting him again. I can't go against Milwaukee, man. It's going to come down to Milwaukee and Boston for sure. I just still don't think that there's enough there yet. Something, and I have no idea if I'm even close to reality on this or not. But I feel like Jaylen Brown, who I also really, really like on my fantasy team, I feel like he has like this one iota of feeling like he is as good as Jason Tatum is and doesn't get the credit. And that, I think, when you are in a situation like that, man, that could rear its head and take in, and who's going to take the last shot and like trying to force a situation that ain't there, for example. And I don't know, man. They're a great team. Hell, they went to the finals last year, and they had a different coach at the time. And dude, you're not going to get me to pick over Giannis, dude. He's incredible. Holiday is incredible. Middleton is a great player. I mean, they got some good pieces. They got a strong case to make in the Eastern Conference. There's all kinds of stories. I could keep going, but it's just, guys, if you don't watch the NBA, like, watch this play in, because it's easy, right? The teams win, they go, and if they don't, they don't. And then the stories only get better as you start to look at, there's a lot of rivalry type situations that are going to come into play here. So we have a question coming in from Daniel. Transfer conversation, Western Coast. Since he's still not shooting tons of threes, feels like we were led to believe part of his reason for transferring was wanting to be a modern big. Could it be more about spacing, chemistry issues that plague this team? It's a good question. It's an informed question. I think the reason I'm struggling with it is it's like probably too smart for me to answer.
Well, I'll answer I'll start with the transfer conversation of Walker Kessler. Well, Walker Kessler transferred. Probably a big majority of that was because he wasn't playing a lot. He wanted to be a modern big, but so does every other big that currently plays right now. That's the one qualm I have, is when you have these really good bigs that are really good and they have all this talent, the first thing they want to do is start shooting threes, which I absolutely hate, because they can be so dominant and good around the rim, and they can, the duck ends. These close shots around the rim are still extremely effective. But I just think it had to do more with him getting consistent minutes. He was backing up Garrison, which wasn't having a great year. I know Garrison had a lot of expectations coming into that year. ACC preseason player of the year pick. Didn't really pan out. And he actually, Walker Kessler performed when he got into the game. He did well. He affected the game in a positive way. He just couldn't get consistent minutes. So he might have been wanting to go someplace where he got the minutes that he thought he should have gotten. And it worked out at Auburn. But there was listen, guys, there was no question mark to me. I felt like if he got consistent minutes, he could turn out and they even believed in him being a very good pro. You can go back to our podcast. We both said that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll answer your next question, Daniel. Thanks for asking these questions too. Could this year have been more about spacing chemistry issues that plagued our team? There could have been some chemistry issues, but who knows? I think if you're in college and you're around your teammates all the time, there are some chemistry issues, but that's not to say that you don't bring it and play right. You don't have to get along with everybody on your team, but when you step on that court, you better play hard. You better have good body language. Regardless of what's happening off the court. That's one thing you can control. And that's also being a good player and being like respecting the game. But also our spacing issue had to do with bad shots. We were taking bad shots. We came on this podcast and we talked about, we think that we took more contested threes than any college team all year. And if you actually looked at our 3-point field goal percentage, it was damn near, I think there's 352 teams in Division I basketball. We were like 325 or 27 at one point in that ranking, which is just horrendous. And also, we didn't get the ball inside effectively. But when you talk about that, most people think we just got to figure out how to just missile the ball down to Armando. No, you got to get the ball inside by cutting, making good cuts, also penetration, getting the ball in and sucking the defense into the lanes and then kicking it back out for open, good quality shots. Just because you get the ball behind the 3-point line and you're semi-open doesn't mean you just need to shoot a scud missile at the rim like we did all year. That was our biggest problem.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can't shoot and you start packing the lane, right? Like, I mean, it's going to create problems down low also. So, I mean, yeah, great question there. I gotta tip it to you, man. Like you're like an analyst here. Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but obviously, he's proven everybody wrong in the NBA, or not everybody wrong, but I think more like proving everybody right in the NBA. I think a lot of people had a lot of belief in Walker, and glad to see him. Glad to see him doing well, but I don't know, man. Just a lot of sports, a lot of just sports left. Baseball's happening, snooze-a-thon. I feel like something big happened in baseball the other day, but baseball. Oh, the pitch clock, right? Everybody's the pitch clock, 30 minutes shorter. Well, put on the game clock and let that shit expire about 30 minutes after it starts, and maybe we're better off. You got anything else, Big Hawk?
Stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody.